Hello, everyone. On today's edition of Conversations with Hutch, guess who you get to hear from? Me, Hutch. I'll give you a glimpse into what has helped to shape and make me. And I want to tell you, I hope to be an inspirational story that comes out of my past. I want to talk to you about one of my relatives. And you can blame my cousin Laura for this because maybe about a year ago she sent me a couple of pictures of him and it triggered a whole host of memories. So let me talk to you about him right now. Stanley Emmanuel Jones, my uncle. And he has an interesting background. Of course, he is or was my mother's brother. He was the only surviving brother that I knew growing up. And so he was an interesting soul. And so now let me kind of try to paint his picture of his story. Born in rural Jamaica. Came over here. He was down in Florida. You see the picture there in the 40s. He's wearing a suit that was probably a size or two bigger than him. He must have been about 17 years old in this picture. And he was down picking oranges in this location in Florida. This was taken somewhere in the 1940s. And so, yes, he was an orange grove picker. The orange grove picker got married to someone on this side of the water and moved to the Bronx. And by the 50s, this orange picker, he had a restaurant and he had a construction business. And he owned his own brownstone on Morris Avenue in the Bronx. Now, some of that happened because of what was going on with the Cross Bronx Expressway. And so he was able to get in that neighborhood, get a nice brownstone. So now I want to show you something. My mother, who was a registered nurse and midwife when she left Jamaica in 57, came to stay when she got sponsored by a hospital in Long Island, came to stay, her and my father, with the orange picker in his house in the Bronx, his brownstone. So I just want to show you how he started living. He was also a deacon at a prominent church in Harlem, and I think his restaurant was in Harlem. He eventually closed the restaurant and just stuck to what he was doing in terms of construction. Made a life for himself. But now I want to share with you the rest of the story because now you hear this and it's a nice inspirational tone. Let me give you a clue as to who he was. And I know some of you, when I tell some of this story, you're going to say, that guy, he was your uncle? I already know, yes. He lived in a house on Grace Avenue in the Northeast Bronx. His house was on the back of the southern platform, of the southbound platform, I should say, of the Baychester Avenue station on the number 5 train. People used to cut through a portion of the yard, jump on the platform to skip paying their fare so they get on the train. But he had some mean dogs that roamed the yard, so you'd have to know where to cut through in order to hop the fence to get on the train. One guy one day didn't know where, and the dogs tore him up within an inch of his life, so it is said. So yeah, he lived in that house, and had a vineyard, and he was balling. He got a Chrysler Imperial. I mean, the thing was laid, copper colored, like the dress. I mean, he was that dude. So I started to learn how to play piano. Took some lessons. And I'm getting ready to give you a mirror into him. Started playing. Was taking lessons at Palumbo School of Music there on Gun Hill Road. Was practicing my piano in the Calhoun's living room on their piano. So he heard about it. And he said to my mother, I'm going to try to imitate him. He said to my mother, Agnes? Her name was Agnes. Agnes, why am I leaving you off here, player? I know some of y'all don't know what I said. Basically, he said he shouldn't be leaving his house to go and play somewhere else. So next thing I knew, wasn't Christmas, wasn't New Year's, wasn't my birthday. A piano was coming in the house, an upright piano. We didn't ask for it. He just had it delivered to the house. And you know how a piano has that label in the front to tell you who made it? This piano had no label. Still don't know what kind of upright piano it is. I have it right now. And so I asked innocently. I said, Uncle Stanley, what kind of piano is this? I must have been about 8 years old. He said, what you want? He play it. So I said, thank you, sir. So that was him. So now you get the first clue to who he was. First of all, he had a very, 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 very thick accent. Extremely thick. He had friends of his that we met, as life rolled on, that were able to either lose their accent or in public settings, you know how we used to do. I know now people just let it all hang out, but we used to have conversation for in the house and conversation for on the street or in business. Well, his friends were able to switch up to the point where you couldn't even tell that they were Jamaican. Matter of fact, their English was impeccable. They could switch it back and forth. And I have several relatives like that, can turn it on, turn it off. Yeah, I know some of y'all saying, what happened to me? But anyway, he couldn't do that. He always had very thick accent. And he was incorrigible. He would do what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it, and he wasn't scared of anybody. And I found out later he was packing all the time. Packing, pistol, yeah. But now here's the second thing, and then I'm going to get to the inspirational piece. I think I was about 13 years old. He had moved, like I said, from Morris Avenue to Grace Avenue to that big house right behind Baychester number 5 train station, subway for y'all outside New York. So he called down to the house, said, come up to the house. So I get to the house. He pushes the dogs away, lets me come in the house, sits me down at his kitchen table, makes some lunch, some light lunch for me, start talking to me. Junior, how y'all do? Talking. So then he slides some papers over to me. And he says, what does that say? I said, oh, Uncle Stanley, this says so-and-so, so-so. You sure? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, man, take this. Put $20 in my hand. That was a lot of money in the 70s for a young boy. And he said, all right, man, time for you to go. Go ahead, go home. Tell your mother I said hello, such and such, and push me out the house. Come to find out later, and it took a while for it to register as to what happened. Then when it finally started kicking in, and this was about maybe a year or two later, because I thought it was strange, but, I looked at the money and I forgot the other stuff. I said, Ma, can Uncle Stanley read? And she basically confirmed my suspicions that for several reasons I won't get into, he was functionally illiterate. So now, let me continue to paint this picture. Picked fruit, oranges. Left that, went to New York, opened up a restaurant, started construction business, did fairly well with the construction business, eventually closed the restaurant. Was able to have a nice house. Matter of fact, he had so much land on that one house that today they have 4 houses where that one house used to sit on Grace Avenue, right there by the train station. Could hardly talk. I'm talking about fluent. And don't think I'm casting aspersions on the patois and the Jamaican accent because I love it. Grew up around it. But his was extremely thick. He had every demerit you could think of. But he was successful. Why? Because he looked past what was in his hand and he looked at where he needed to go and he made sure that he got there. And so he made a success out of his life. And now, I have a friend of mine, I won't call his name, matter of fact, he may be on this platform soon with me. And he used to talk about how my mother was fearless, but the fearless one was actually my uncle, because all those places we went to the beach where at the time black folk didn't go, and then he helped discover it and knock those walls down, up in Connecticut and other places, and all these places to shop and all that. He found them first. And then he told my mother about them, and then she went and took other people out there. He never took us out there, but he told us where to go. So he was the pioneer for a lot of that. And somebody is watching this right now, and you're saying, why do I need to hear about an illiterate, no-talking uncle of yours? Well, because that no-talking uncle is one of the building blocks that helped to build me to where I now have an earned doctorate. I've traveled all over the world and I've been blessed. And a large part of it was because of him. And he persevered in spite of what he didn't have, in spite of what he didn't know. And somebody's going to watch this and say, well, I live in the hood, come out of a single parent house, we don't have money. And you're going to make a long list of all the stuff you don't have. Well, I could do the same thing and tell you about how he came up. Matter of fact, people thought that his parents were rich because where they grew up, his father, who was a carpenter, probably how he got into construction and knew what to do, built mahogany floors in the house. That's the wood they had. So they had wood floors when everybody else had dirt floors. So they were rich. Put that in perspective. So he grew up without, just like some of y'all, was functionally illiterate. If you have to get a 12, 13-year-old to read something to tell you what it says, then you need some help in school. So I'm trying to encourage you to look past your handicaps and figure out how you're going to move forward and then just go ahead and do it. Opportunity awaits. Yes, I know about all the isms. I know about all the stuff that sets you back. And if you get anything from watching this channel, and I hope you watch all of the other segments with Conversations with Hutch, one of the things I hope you will see, the thread through it all, is that everyone that I've interviewed and will interview has had some obstacles, and they have found ways to overcome the obstacles and move forward. And they are no brighter, no better, no more gifted than you. What they had was perseverance, and they moved forward. So I want to encourage you today. If you need any encouragement to tell you that you can do it, look at my uncle. My uncle did it. My uncle was successful. My uncle had a grind. My uncle was not lazy. My uncle decided that in spite of what life initially gave him, he was going to make the most out of it. He was going to take those lemons and make lemonade. Now, I might have had some rum in it. That's a joke, y'all. But he made the lemonade. I hope this blesses somebody. Check out the rest of the content that you find here on Conversations with Hutch. God bless you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching, and you know what to do. Share, share, share. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. And let me know what you think. Thank you so much, and God bless. Take care.